Hey beautiful people of the internet, I wanted to share with you like a show and tell of some of the antique quilt tops that I have found, and then I have like quilted and finished and bound and got them done. In this video, I'm also going to share with you where you could find these treasures. And I also want to share with you like why I started doing this, why I started like hunting antique quilts down. Go back a little bit. I'm at the last row of quilting, and I want to show you some pieces that are so sweet. This is all hand pieced. I can't believe it's hand pieced. It's insane. This is the pattern that I put on it, and I'm using a light blue thread. The maker was running out of fabric, and she used anything she could find to make the squares. So how did I start finding antique quilts or quilt tops that were not finished? A client of mine sent me several antique quilts that she had found somewhere, and she had me long arm them, and she told me that it's shameful to find these quilts like for hardly nothing and knowing the amount of work were put in them. So she kind of encouraged me to like go find some. The quilt with are you serious, Lily? Quilt was literally going that way, and it was really full. And there is still some fullness here, but I could deal with that. But yeah, it's kind of straight now. The crazy thing about it is, like, she found these quilt tops, and she was paying me to long arm them. And I was like, you know, here I have a long arm. I'm not having to pay somebody to long arm them, and if I could find them and long arm them. There's a full right there. That's how it started. Just a client came to me and brought me a whole bunch of antique quilts, and some of them had torn fabrics, some of them had major puddling issues, but she didn't care. She felt she was honoring the maker despite how the quilt top came out, and yeah, she would just bring me antique quilt tops. That's how all this started. Real quick. Good. Alright, so I put the quilt on the horizontal. So sometimes you can see if the quilt, and even this, like it bows down. You can literally see just by the quilt hanging how it's shifting. Here you can see this puddling. What I found is if you iron in this direction, that bias that's right there, and also even push the fabric in this direction, it will fix that. So I'm going to share with you where I have found them. I have found them in antique stores. As a matter of fact, at the Grissom Mill by New Braunfels, I think it's Gromes. It's a little city called Gromes. There's an antique store there, and they had like different vendors, and I found a vendor who found quilt tops, and I would buy them for like $10. But let me just be clear, this vendor, I would go back every month and buy another quilt top that wasn't finished. And initially they were like really cheap. This is a handmade quilt, and it was rounded, and I'll tell you why I trim off the rounded part. The reason I trim off the rounded part is because I don't know how to do that kind of binding. I need to teach myself. The blocks, these blocks are hand pieced, but I think someone else came in and sewed these other pieces. So someone must have found all these blocks that were hand pieced, and then someone came in and sewed it. It could have been the same person. It could have been like maybe their grandmother was hand piecing these and they found the bundle of them, and then another family member came back and sewed these. But then as I kept going to this antique store, I guess the other vendors found out what was selling, that someone was hunting, Lorena was hunting some quilt tops. So other vendors started finding them, but these vendors were starting to charge $50 to $60. As a matter of fact, one of the quilts that I will post a video of that I love, I paid $100 for. And I'm not, they're worth what they're worth, right? You can't buy a quilt top just in fabric you spend that much money. But these were like little tiny 1-inch squares, and it was such a well-made quilt that at that antique store I did pay $100. And it, oh my god. And she's about a large twin size quilt. But look, it's all hand pieced. All of it. It's beautiful. So it was like this, so you could see the shift. And you can see the line. And so we're gonna dip it up like this. Oh, let's see. And then we're gonna get a beautiful steam and iron, and we're gonna steam it. So it got stretched somehow. So this line is very important. We're gonna keep an eye on that one. And this is when, while you're rolling your quilt, be mindful of this, because if not, it'll dip more and more, and then, see, it's not dipping anymore all of a sudden, but it's still dipping over here. We're gonna pull her up here. And you don't wanna pleat this beautiful quilt at all. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of like love her and just kind of soothe her into submission. I really did a beautiful, heavily dense quilting on it. You see that beautiful texture of this quilt. So you can see it all in her divine, wonderful glory. She took, because of the intense quilting, each row of quilting took about an hour to quilt. The binding didn't take me that long, and here's my binding so y'all can check it out. Another place that you can go look is at an estate sale. There's this app called estatesales.net. And you could literally put the location that you're at, and every week there's a new set of estate that is being sold because somebody has wanted to move, they're retiring, or also too, they're going into a home, or they have passed. So it's an estate sale. You can find, I have found probably 4 quilts at estate sales. They have them weekly. They also post videos or pictures of what is being sold at an estate sale. And you can literally see what's being sold. And if you see an estate sale that has a lot of different type of fabric, type of material, those are estate sales to go see if they have what you're looking for. Another place to go is a garage sale. But I want you to consider, like, when you pass by the garage sale, the way I caught wind of this one is they had a quilting rack. They had a quilting rack, and that kind of like highlighted to me, like, oh, if they have a quilting rack, they may have quilts. And so if you see like a table full of fabric or a table full of material, there could be potential quilt tops there. Another place that you could find antique quilts is on eBay. A lot of people tend to find these quilt tops and they don't want them, and they don't know what to do them, and they ask you to pay $10 to $15 for them, and they'll ship them to you. Now, if you don't want to be hunting, you can hunt on the internet. They're there. I also think maybe you can also find them on Etsy, but I don't know. I haven't looked on Etsy, but I think that could be a place where you could look. I know for sure one of my clients found a couple quilt tops on eBay. Costs will vary. I have bought beautiful quilt tops, hexagon quilt tops that I'll never hand make ever in my life for $2. I've paid $100 for a specific quilt top. And I love this quilt top, and I'm keeping the quilt top. It was a 1-inch square quilt top. I found probably like 4 quilts that were beautifully made, and I paid $20 to $40, maybe $40 on one and $20 on a couple of them. So the price range of pricing will vary. This is how I look at it. I will not, for me to make that quilt top, it will probably cost me more than $100, and it'll probably also cost me 100 hours worth of work. And here I'm paying $20 for it to have it made already. finished. It's one of a kind. You'll never see another one like it. And if it's a well-made quilt, it's worth grabbing, man. It's worth having. They're beautiful. They're worth it. I'm saying they're worth it. I have literally found quilt tops that my daughter was like, I love this. And my daughter-in-law to me is my daughter. They were both fighting over that quilt top. And one was hand embroidered. Oh, this thing was beautiful. I long-armed them so much. I've literally think I've long-armed 20 antique quilt tops that I have found. And in that I've also found another probably 20. But what I love about it is 20 people I have given them to, and they're beautiful. I did one, and it was a beautiful hexagon quilt, and I took it to the beach, and just laying it down, people were walking by that quilt and saying, where did you get that? Oh my God. And I was like, I found it for $3. Of course, I put some money into it, but I think it's worth honoring the maker. Honoring the maker. Like, yeah, it's beautiful.